Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to more Friday night action here on RaceSpotTV. It is bound to be an exciting one as we get set to close out the first half of what has been an already very hectic season for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. Welcome, everybody. I am Miller Renfo. I've got, of course, Lorenzo Bonner beside me in the commentary box with Hugo Luis down behind the cameras for tonight's 19 laps around the Hockenheimring as we swing things over to the Eiffel Forest in Germany. It is bound to be an incredibly exciting race and an incredibly exciting track here, Lorenzo. 13 cars get set to rumble away for the for the end of the first half of the season before we kick off that second half over at Iowa Speedway, a beautiful 3/4 mile short track down in the USA once again at the end of July.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting racing here at Hockenheim because I think it might provide a little bit of what we saw in Watkins Glen, a little bit of a pack racing, given to the fact that the track is pretty much flat. It has some high speed, a good mix of high speed to medium speed corners with just a few handful of slow corners, namely turn number 3 and 2 and turn number 5 specifically. Or number 4, whatever you prefer, because some people call the parabolic at turn number 4. I kind of like calling it a very long straight, but it's a very interesting track in my opinion, and it's not the easiest one to hit on these cars. Can't wait to see what they will do for the 19 laps.
Should be an incredibly exciting run around this beautiful facility. Of course, one of the big areas to look out for coming into today is going to be that ever-important final hairpin. Well, not final hairpin, I say one of the first hairpins on the track. In fact, it would be, I believe, turn 4 down at the Spitzker hairpin down at the very end of the racetrack. It's going to be one of those incredibly tight hairpins to have to watch out for. You will definitely be seeing at least a couple of drivers looking to send it 2, maybe 3 wide down the inside, and maybe even trying to make a move around the outside line. Not unheard of in these iRacing Indy Pro 2000 machines, but it's definitely a bit of an ask when you start to try to make it 3 wide around the outside. That isn't to say that it hasn't been done and could be done again.
It can be done again because these cars, one thing they are for sure, they're much smaller than the Indy cars. When we actually ran this a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, so it's gonna be interesting to see how these small F3 like cars made by Dallara will actually negotiate around the wide track that is Hockenheim. One thing that this track is for sure in comparison to Watkins Glen is wide.
3 minutes remaining in qualifying. Presently, Krister AJ Anderson up there on the pole position, the only driver to poke into the 132 range with the 32.974 in his number 6 machine. That was on his most recent lap, and that will be his final qualifying lap as well. Looks as though we got about 11 of 13 drivers that have set times for today. Currently, the only 2 drivers waiting on set times are Greg Seitz, who is on his second lap, along with Lyubov Ozretskaya in the number 10 machine. We're right on board with Ozretskaya now as she throws her way down this back straightaway. Had a little bit of a spin, Lorenzo, on that opening lap, so she's just got to hope that she can keep it together for this second run here.
Yeah, she had a spin right on the curve she's about to go right now, to be very honest with you. So it's not the easiest turn. There she goes again. Apparently, I don't want. It might look like that her car in the rear wing, it might not be properly set, because this is one of these tracks you have to find the commitment of getting that speed for you to overtake at the end of the turn. Right at the end of the long straight of the Parabolica, going to Spitzkette, which is the hairpin, and then to navigate through corners like the Mobile 1 Arena, Mercedes Arena, Südkette, and so many others that kind of made a little bit of downforce.
So now we look up to Greg Seitz, one of the only drivers left to set a lap time in this qualifying session with a minute and a half remaining. Comes through that final corner. You're going to be thundering down towards the start-finish line. What time will this be? A 1:33.112. Not enough for pole position, but it will be enough, Lorenzo, to put him on that front row just over a tenth of a second behind Anderson, your current pole sitter.
Yeah, and seeing Seitz again sitting in the front row of the grid, just impressive drive. But more impressively is what Krister actually done in his lap. 132.9 is basically one of the perfect laps you want to have for qualifying. So whoever's on track right now, if you got a valid lap to go for, go for it. In the meanwhile, what you can do is just strain the lines, prepare yourself for the race, and pull your head.
40 seconds remaining in the session. At the moment, the only drivers on course are out there trying to get a little bit more practice time in, including Stutskaya, who is still on that second qualifying lap. She's just trying to work her way through to maybe finish off this second lap here. Of course, it will not count due to the spin that she had earlier on in this lap and running wide, even in the final section of the track, onto that quarter-mile drag strip. Through that final corner, though, just 15 seconds remaining here in qualifying, Lorenzo. So what do you think we could potentially be looking out for here on this opening lap from Hockenheimring?
It's gonna be an intriguing one, because regardless of what we saw in the F3s a few weeks ago, that they have a standing start and can get a little bit convoluted in turn number 1 and 2 specifically, and then you have the run down to the hairpin. This is a rolling start, so it can cause a little bit of mayhem trying to scramble yourself around going to turn number 1, but it's going to be an interesting first lap to take a notice on how the cars perform.
Qualifying is complete. We'll take a look now at the starting grid for round 6 of the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. Christopher AJ Anderson on pole with a 1:32.974. Greg Seitz starting beside him on front row, 1/10 back. Danny Corpia is going to be in 3rd place with Mitchell Ian Green in 4th, with Daniel Kranefuss in 5th. Frank Nagaya going to round out the top half of the field. Ambedima sits in 7th place with Callum Voisin in 8th. Martin Arnoldis is going to be in 9th place with Cristobal Valenzuela in the 10th position. Martin Steinhilber is in 11th with Anthony Kernan in 12th. Lyubov Ozretskaya going to be rounding out the final car in this 13-car field, the only driver to not be able to put in a qualifying time. At the moment, we are just waiting on, I believe, 11th place to join into the session along with your pole sitter, and then we will be ready to get this 19-lap race around the Hockenheimring underway. just waited on P12 now. Of course, it is a shorter pace lap here around the Hockenheimring. You've got yourself starting right at the cusp of the arena section, and about 30 seconds left for the driver of Anthony Kernan to get himself wrapped up into the session and gridded on up, which he does do now. Taking a look at the race facts, it is a pretty windy day out there at the moment, Lorenzo. 22 kilometers in the air, blowing to the south. It's about 14 miles per hour. Track is relatively cool as well. Only 66 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the 64 degrees in the air, and that's 19 Celsius and 18 Celsius for the track and air respectively. Partly cloudy skies out there, so it'll be an interesting race here at the moment. Kernan, by the way, has had problems off the start. He's not able to get his car fired up, so he just now started rolling up in the back of the field. So he's got a bit of catch up to do here before we go green.
Yeah, I think he has time enough to catch up to the rest of the grid, but it's going to be an interesting one, that gust of wind to the south, because that's pointed right at the entry of the Mobile 1 Keta and also where Lyubov spun at turn number 10. So it's going to be interesting, again, to see how they go around those curves specifically, because it can upset some drivers real quickly.
Green flag waves were underway in Germany from the Hockenheimring. It is a great launch up front from Christer AJ Anderson. Corpy barely stays ahead of Greg Seitz at the run to turn number 1. Picks up the second position. Here comes Mitchell Lee and Green now trying to maybe fight the outside line from Greg Seitz as Seitz tries to get a run back on Corpy towards turn number 2. Double file way in the back. Freight Nagayan trying to go way around the outside of Daniel Krenfuss. One driver does fall back. That is Lyubov Ozretstutskaya, who had a bit of a lock up in the opening corners and had to really lock up the race to avoid running the back end of Martin Steinhilber. In fact, might have made a little bit of contact, but in the run to the hairpin for that first time today, still fanning out 2, almost 3 wide, deep in the background. Your pull center is off and away. Corpy under fire for Greg Seitz. A lot of contact being made right behind the wheel to wheel with drivers like Arnoldus and Medema trying to make up time early on.
I honestly thought that 3 wide car pileup that was going into the hairpin would cause a major incident right there, but it didn't cause anything whatsoever. Good avoidance of the drivers to keep everyone clean and fair going so far. So really good first lap to round up our 19 lap race here at Hockenheim.
Already, Christer Anderson is way out in front from this field. I mean, we're coming to the end of the first lap, but he's already a second and a half clear, so he has got more than enough room to work with. The battle is all going to be for positions just in behind. You've got 2 trains really starting to form up here. You've got 3rd place on back to about 7th, and you've got 8th on back to about everybody else running in the field at the moment. We take a ride on board from one of the Hoensingfeld machines in the center of the field. I believe this is on board with Frank Nagayan trying to run down Daniel Krenfuss just up front. Olds trying to fend up Callum Voisin. Runs a bit too wide, though, onto those curves. Clatters over, loses a lot of speed, so here comes Voisin down the inside line of the number 7 machine, and that will put Voisin up yet another place. That puts him up into the top half of the field, up into 6th.
Yeah, nice move from Voisin going into the inside of front Nguyen. But the problem is, if you go to the inside, the hunter becomes hunted. Therefore, Nguyen on the back wing of Voisin going to the inside.
Trying to get that drag down the into the braking zone. Battle of the late breakers. Voisin breaks a lot later and carries the speed around the outside groove. So Frank Nagayan cannot complete the pass. Swings a little bit further out to the right side of the racetrack for tucking in line. Lifted out of the throttle. Wanted to make sure that Nagayan could manage to get himself safely tucked in line and not have to worry about running over Voisin into the following braking zones. So far, though, a relatively clean start overall. The only real incident I can really note of is Orestovskaya, who in the opening lap just had to lock up to avoid running through the back end of Anthony Kernan down in turn number 2, but there was no condiment even there. So far, it's been a very clean start for your 13-car field.
Yeah, he has been really sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, he jinxed it.
Yes, I did. That's Cristobal Valenzuela.
I'll blame you this time around.
Yeah, so apologies to Valenzuela. I'll take the blame for that one. I absolutely jinxed it. Was just saying how it was such a clean start, and not even one corner later, somebody goes spin it off. Take a look right on board with Valenzuela. Oh, just got too deep in the corner. Had to swing wide to avoid running the drive in front of him. As soon as he did those 2 wheels into the right side, just over the berm there, it was over. Not gonna happen. Here comes Retstoskaya trying to find the inside of Kernan, and Kernan has a spin now. Completely self-inflicted error.
Yeah, completely self-inflicted there. You know, going for the late braking, trying to overshoot Zeratovskaya into the entry of turn number 2. Going after the 100-meter board, you can see the car easily locking up. It already was a little bit loose in the entry while braking, and then Kerner just went for the spin on the outside part of the turn. Lyubov has nothing to do with this. Faces a freebie, moves up 1 spot.
It's what a lot of these drivers like to do: apply the pressure on the drivers behind and let them make their own mistakes. Take a look at this battle here for P2 on the track. Greg Seitz trying to retake second place from Danny Corpy. See if he can maybe run down that number 2 car. These two drivers swap positions in the opening lap right after turn 1. Seitz so far has not been able to get back past. The number 2 car has been holding strong. The gap, by the way, up to Anderson in the lead has not really gone anywhere. It's still hanging around that 1.4 to 1.6 second range. So it's not like, you know, Anderson's able to pull away. These drivers behind him are matched despite being in battles of their own, which means if he makes one mistake, he could find himself under fire again for the race lead.
He could, you know, it's going to be tricky to see if Corpy can avoid making mistakes here. But looking at inertia 1-2, and I was surprised to see, inertia, you know, driving F3s, to be very honest with you. We know inertia are very fast in GT cars, and we saw that yesterday in the race for the flood, that we raised over 8,000 euros for the to help with the floodings that happened in Austria and specifically at the Eifel region. So everybody, thank you for donating. But it's interesting to see Danny Corpy and Christian Anderson in the cars driving open.
Well, speaking of Formula 3 machines, don't forget there is going to be the Apex Formula 3 Championship on iRacing, also on RaceSpotTV. Well, actually, less than an hour from now, it's going to be a quarter past at about 2 o'clock. Pacific Standard Time. So that will be coming up here in just about 45 minutes. And then just 15 minutes after that gets started, so does the iRacing Formula V series. So if you definitely like wheel racing, well, you'll have your fill of it here today. 3 very exciting series and all coming to you live from RaceSpotTV from some very talented crews. Take a look at this battle further to the back at the tail end of your screen. This is Oretskaya trying to continue to work her way up. Battle for 9th place, tries to get down the inside into the arena section. Arnoldus gave her the space to work with, but then decided to kind of fight that one around the outside, and Oretskaya decided she didn't want to really push the issue.
Yeah, she cannot push the issue into the entry of the Mobil 1 Keta, because the problem is if you push, there's a little bit of a slope going to the inside of turn number 11 that can offset your car and kind of, I'm not going to say bottom out the car. It can bottom out a little bit, but you can make the car a little bit light, and if it is light, you can actually spin the car around. So she doesn't want that early on in this race.
She's got to be careful as well. You saw how wide she took turn 1 there, ran 4 wheels outside of those curves. You go too far out there, you'll actually get a slowdown penalty for abusing track limits. So you always got to be sure that you don't go too far out there. Doesn't look like she did get that penalty though, as Oretskaya running down. Martins Arnoldus makes that look down into the turn number 4 hairpin at the east end of the track, down on the brakes. Can she complete the move? Looks like she's just barely got that nose in front. Now the question is, can Arnoldus maybe get that cutback? He's got that run, trying to get back past his opponent, but backs out through the kink before braking for the 90-degree left-hander.
Yeah, and she gets the line back going to Mercedes, so she's actually retains that position from Arnoldus, moving into P9 in the standings so far. Lyubov coming from behind, so every position that she can get is gonna be golden for her. But the problem is she's about 4 seconds back from the next guy, which is Enmadema.
Enmadema is also looking to potentially reel in the battle right up in front of him with Frank Nagaya and Callum Voisin, who are starting to bring that gap a little bit further down. So far, though, the 2 drivers in the back battling for 9th and 10th. They are 2 of the closer cars we see out there on the track. A lot of other drivers out there are currently just kind of running around and hanging in there. Oh, hello. Big off there for Martin Arnoldus, and it would not surprise me there if that happened to be one of those slowdown penalties, but that was, of course, due to a very big loose moment down at the turn 1.
Yeah, you know what they say, right? Grass is lava. So if you clip the grass, especially under braking, something funky happens, and you can see right there clipping right on the entry.
Look at how far sideways this car shoots, just smoking up those tires. Did a great job to wrestle that thing back. I mean, fair play there to Arnoldus. I mean, he got done exactly what he needed to do to manage to maintain that car control. That was some beautiful driving there that we saw from the number 11. We take a look back up, though, to Daniel Kranefuss and Mitchell Ian Green. This is the battle for 5th and 4th, which has swapped hands, by the way. I believe this last time by down at the hairpin is where Kranefuss made the pass. So now Green diving into the arena section, wants to try to see if he can stay nice and close to the end of the Rust Racing number 8 machine to try to maybe get that spot back on the next lap.
And this is kind of a team battle of sorts because Mitchell is also from Rust Racing. He's from Rust Racing Blue, and this is Rust Racing Red. So it's just to prove which color is best within the RGB, if it is red or blue. So far, the red is proving to be superior so far.
I'm personally more of my favorite color happens to be blue, so forgive me if I'm a little bit biased towards Mitchell Ian Green.
Okay, fair point.
I find it a bit interesting as well. Mitchell Ian Green is racing in the Rust Racing Blue machine. You'd think it'd be Rust Racing Green machine. That'd be just the perfect cake on the top there.
Yeah, it could, but what kind of green would he run though?
Yeah, fair point. As well as this is also a 3-car fight just in behind, so we'll see here down into the braking zone. This is a good shot to watch the both of them. There's the 2-car fight for 4th and 5th between the teammates behind Voisin. Oh, and the guy in Medina gonna go 3 wide down into the braking zone for the hairpin. And Medina trying to go 2 for 2. Can he actually get the spot? I don't think he's quite got it. Friend of guy fighting back on the outside line, but Callum Voisin caught unawares when both cars just in behind, side by side to the kink. Voisin might try to get the cut back, decides to back out wisely. 3 wide at this corner does not go very well. Medina gets busted out to the right side of the track. Frank Nagaya pulls ahead of all 3 drivers.
Nice job from Nguyen to break away from both drivers, but this is not over. You can see the Uragoner, which is the poking fun of the Urakali logo of the Haas F1 team. But what a battle so far between these 3 cars. And Voisin, he tried to go for the move at the Mercedes hairpin, but just couldn't find the opening to go for that lunge on Medema as Nguyen starts to open up a little bit of a gap.
Valenzuela has gone way off at the engine to the arena section and is out of the race as a result. The number 13 car, no front wing, no suspension either on the left side. So the number 13 car, Cristobal Valenzuela, having a big moment at the entrance to the arena section. We see on board for the right side. That is a very unhappy looking Indy Pro 2000. If that thing is somehow competitive, it would be the biggest achievement I think we have seen yet. The battle, though, for 6th, 7th, and 8th still raging on the left-hand side of the screen. Amadima running down. Frank Nguyen can we try to get the run down to the hairpin? Here comes Voisin trying to maybe make it 3 wide, maybe around the outside line. Elects not to go for it. Could go for the switchback. That's exactly what he's going to do. Voisin on the undercut with the switchback. Nguyen holds on somehow. Amadima now gets the crossover. Starting to pick on up as we near the halfway point.
Yeah, nice move from Medema to block off the switchback.
And Nguyen gets collected as well. All 3 drivers are knocked out of it this fight at the same time. Nguyen's going to have damage for sure. The number 7 machine might have had a bit of contact. And just like that, Liambov Osvetskaya picks up 3 spots in 1 corner. There's the guy getting a piece of it.
Oh, it's so unfortunate to see Nguyen actually go. It managed to avoid so skillfully that 2-car crash, and then right at the end, like literally at the end, like you think you're safe, you just had a slight graze with the car from Voisin. Look at the replay of this. This is unbelievable.
I think it's safe to say that Amadima kind of chopped across the nose there. I mean, it was a bold move. He was trying to have a look back on the guy into the braking zone. Didn't quite realize that Callum Voisin was so close. I mean, Voisin held his line. That's, I think if this was an FIA series, that'd be a good old 10-second time penalty there for the number 3 machine. That's such an unfortunate shame for all 3 of those drivers who were running so well together. By the way, Callum Voisin is still out there with no front wing, so he's not wanting to back off at all here.
Well, if you got a chance to drive, keep on driving, right? But let's take a look again on the switchback. But maybe Nguyen might have played a part over here, right on the braking line, and that's what I might call a Medema offline, and that's why I had to swerve left to avoid a possible crash, and does cause a crash with Voisin right there. But you know what? The biggest problem is for Nguyen right now is that there's a Red of Sky coming really quickly, because he's nearly a second on the rear wing of that number 7 car.
Doesn't look like the damage from the number 7 car is affecting him all too much. So despite that number 10 of Lyubov starting to close in, the 7 is doing a good job to hold firm. There are still battles elsewhere throughout the course. This is currently the battle for P2 between Danny Corpia and Greg Seitz, battling for 2nd and 3rd. Which, by the way, they're starting to slowly reel in your race leader again, down to just 1.3 seconds now. So the gap to the race leader is starting to shrink. And don't forget as well, you got the Rust Racing teammate battle with Mitchell Ian Green and Daniel Cranefuss as well, looking to potentially tango. Looks like those two drivers have actually swapped hands as well, while all that chaos was going on.
Yep, they switched back, I think, on the previous line.
Now that would be of no surprise.
I paid for a correction.
And it's probably one of those things that's going to switch back and forth throughout as the race goes on. And obviously, being teammates, they're not going to fight each other as hard as they would, their opponents. Now, of course, that being said, you get to the last lap, and it's every man for himself. And here is the pass down into the hairpin that shows Mitchell and Green retaking the 4th position.
And nice job from Mitchell. And my curiosity is if Mitchell actually going to run the F3s later on, as we're still seeing Seitz trying to catch up to Danny Corpy, because we've seen that happen a few races ago, that he went from the Red Bull Ring, I think, and went straight to the F3s with barely any practice, and actually got a really respectable result. As Seitz, which is our point standing leader right here, again with a really good solid run, getting top 3, another top 3 for Seitz. And I'm not gonna say the streak goes on, because the streak ended at the Red Bull Ring, but just continue the really good season he's having so far.
Take a look up at the delta on the left side of your timing screens there. About 1 second. It was down to 9/10 between Anderson and Corpy. Christopher A.J. Anderson's lead is no longer secure. I have a feeling Corpy is just within drafting distance. So at the moment, Danny Corpy has just got to try to get himself sorted here. Maybe recollect himself, get a few very good laps in, and he'll find himself racing right up there with his teammate running up at the front of this race. So, bit of a bobble that last time by for Christopher A.J. Anderson out the hairpin. That cost him some more time.
It did cost him a little bit of time. It actually cost him about 0.2 of a second on Corpy. Now, Corpy's gap to Christopher to actually catch up is right about 0.85 tenths of a second. So it's going to be the work to Corpy to try to get close to number 2 car in the split, as Seitz is right behind him, and I think Seitz is loving this so far.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's loving this. I know we're certainly loving this. I mean, this is just some great race that we've seen so far throughout the course of this race, due, of course, to the previous incidents we've been having over the past little while. It has, calmed down slightly, but this battle for the lead is starting to pick up. 3/4 of a second now separating your top 2.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think Seitz would be very happy with this, because he can actually make a 1 for 2 Foxes that he can actually hunt down. So let's see if the Foxes out of the Inertia Sim Racing team can actually hold them off for the next 7 laps.
7 remaining. Anderson continues to try to fend off his Inertia teammate Justin behind. I mean, now you, of course, come to another situation. Of course, Danny Corpy's been running down Anderson this entire race. Is he going to go for the position, or does he elect to stick him behind and defend against Greg Seitz in the other Rust race machine out on the circuit? Of course, Greg Seitz is certainly not going to take it easy on the Inertia teammates. He wants to have a run at this thing as well, trying to close it to further towards the end of this race. But looking how close now Danny Corpy is, I don't think he's going to give Anderson a whole lot of room to work with here.
It's going to be tricky to see how Christopher's going to negotiate this. Last lap for Christopher has been on the 33.4s, and I think he has been there regularly within the 4s to 6s and on the 33. So it's going to be hard to defend Corpy, which looks like he has the better equipment right now.
exiting the arena section towards that pit straight, continuing to tick away at the laps. It is going to be 7 laps to go this time by. It was 8 to go on the last lap, so 7 officially now. This is at the moment the only battle on course that is under a second from each other. It's at the point where Anderson is starting to go defensive.
Yeah, Anderson doesn't want to let his teammate get the glory right here. So, last time I've seen teammates around the track like this, it ended up in tears for Brazilians. So, it's gonna be interesting to see Christian now weaving the car around to try to break the draft, but Corpy's having none of it.
Corpy's looking for it. Anderson swings back to the left-hand side. Corpy down the inside into the hairpin. Can he pick up the lead from his inertia teammate? Looks like he just barely can. Krister AJ Anderson still holding strong in the number 6 car around the outside, but he does not have the nose. Does he go for it back into the 90-degree left-hander? He's going to try to go for it around the outside line through the 90-degree right or left-hand corner. Takes that position back around the outside line. Anderson somehow fends off Danny Corby for the race lead. Oh, contact! Banging wheels on the two teamers as Greg Sainz now throwing his hand in the ring. Right in front, that was Cristobal Valenzuela letting the field through.
I don't know if you guys heard, but even my dog actually got excited with this. Race Spot dog got excited with this one. But I think there was a driver that was still slow going to the Mobi 1 Keta. And we'll take a look at who was that most specifically. But that fight is really feisty. Those foxes are not playing coy with one another.
It was Cristobal Valenzuela, the slower car. He still has suspension damage. He's just trying to come on out and get a little bit more safety ready from the race now, finish under his own power. He was just staying aside though and letting everybody through. He's been doing the same for everybody else so far in the field. So Danny Corpy holds on to the race lead. The first lead change we've seen all race on that last lap. Can Anderson get him back though? He's definitely close enough. We see how close these two teams are fighting. They were even touched a little bit. Krister AJ Anderson will definitely have more than enough speed. Gonna make that duck out to the right-hand side. It's such a powerful thing, and I mean, you get so much room, no DRS required in these light machines.
Plus, they don't use push to pass like we used to do, like I had to do it at the Indy in the IR18. So it's gonna be interesting how they negotiate with only drag and mechanical grip alone.
Oh, trying to go for the switchback as Anderson nearly takes off the rear wing of Danny Corpy, and that in turn costs some time back to Greg Sides, who is no doubt going to be trying to go back and try to take him second place. I tell you what, I mean,
car's damaged, by the way.
Sorry, what was that now?
Anderson's car is damaged on the front wing on the left front.
Just a little bit. I think you're right. Might be crumpled in just the smallest of margins. Doesn't look like it's affecting him too much, though. I tell you what, you've seen Greg Sides back it off a little bit more. I think at the moment Greg Sides is just thinking, all right, well, if they're going to fight it out, he knows their teammates. I'll just let both of them take each other out, and I'll just sweep through and take an easy victory. Yeah,
it's a good strategy, but I think if he knows there's a damage right there in Anderson's car, I'll try to push a little bit, be a little bit more aggressive. It's not going to affect way too much the car handling, especially in a track like this where it's very reliant on draft. But I think this is how to build an opportunity. He has about 5 laps to do it, and he has to make it count every single lap.
Looking around and moving into the braking zone is Krister AJ Anderson. There you see Valenzuela still very, very slow at the tail end of the field. Saw right in the back of the shot as this lead battle darted its way through. A quarter second separated them. Anderson is going to stay in line. A dive bomb from that far back would not be very feasible in these machines. We've seen already what happens when you just try to go side by side through there, let alone try to throw a dive bomb like that.
No, I don't think it's feasible. And if it was feasible, it would have been the dive bomb of the century with these cars. So I think for now, they're just trying to play it safe, you know, avoiding any possible incidents that could end their races this late in the race. But if there's an opening that Anderson finds it, I think he's going to try to explore it, even with the damaged front wing.
I'm still thinking, I don't think that wing is really all too damaged. Certainly not enough that it's affecting him. I mean, look at how much he's starting to reel in Danny Corby up in front. He is absolutely on. He gets a much better run through turn 1. And Christopher A.J. Anderson trying to fight this one back. Not sure he'll be able to get the switch back into 2, but maybe down for the hairpin. Almost certainly down into the hairpin. There's no way he's not going to be able to have a draft powerful enough. So 4 to go. A.J. Anderson looks for the right side. Gets that draft down this back straightaway, trying to make the run down for the hairpin for the 16th time today.
Can they make it without touching? They can. The problem is the next corner.
Anderson holds him off for now. Corby back down the inside line into the left-hander. Decides to try to fight this one out. I tell you what, I mean, these two teammates, they are not giving each other an inch of room. Oh, man, more contact. Corby gets shoved off. Sykes picks him second. Now trying to go for the lead into the arena section. That over the door wide open for Greg Sykes. The inertia teammates, it's starting to boil over in the inertia camp. And now Greg Sykes is here to break up the party.
And, Anderson's car got a little bit loose going to Saxketa, so it's gonna be tricky to see if Anderson can keep up that car with Sykes now looming large in P2. And I think with about 3 laps to go, if I'm Sykes, I think he knows already. This is go time.
Here's the replay. There is the contact that sent Corby out wide. I mean, Anderson just ran him out of room, did not let him have any kind of space to work with on the exit of that corner coming into the arena section. So definitely not what you want to see.
Yeah, and what are the chances we might see a 3 wide here?
Well, I would honestly say probably a bit low, considering how far back Greg Sykes is. He's not close enough to have a realistic move down the inside. And at the moment, Corby is just tucked in line. He's trying to wait for Greg Sykes to pull him into his teammate. Oh, and Anderson runs wide through the hairpin. That allows Sykes to close him even more. 3/10 and closing fast.
Yeah, I think he ran wide, try to maximize the sausage curve that it has on the outside. It gives you a little bit of a grip. It can aid you in trying to regain that speed. So it was a little bit planned. What was weird is to see Sykes kind of parking on the apex for a split second right there and trying to regain the speed. Should not allow Corby to get closer and go for the outside overtake. But a really good battle as we are approaching 2 laps to go.
Sykes runs wide, nearly clips the gravel trap. Oh, but that allows him to swing wide right through the top of the arena section. Danny Corbett closes up even more. Christopher A.J. Anderson trying to maybe fend him off. He's got half a second, growing to 6/10 between himself and Sykes. If he can just keep him at bay for 2 more laps, he could get a victory here. And what a victory it would be. One that I don't think Corby would be too pleased about, but one that Anderson would certainly have to work for.
And Sykes using the full run that he can actually get an off track on. So he did get an off track going to turn number 1. Gets a little bit wobbly into the exit out of 2, and he's going to use the draft gap right about half a second, splitting the first to second, and then 0.2 of a second splitting second to third.
So if you're Danny Corby, at what point do you decide to go for the position yourself and realize you're not going to have a shot for the lead? And Corby looks for the inside. Sykes trying to make the dive from a long way back, but Anderson overshoots. Greg Sykes down the inside, about 2/10 separating the pair. 10.5 now. Greg Sykes has got the run with 1.5 laps remaining. Can he make this run here into that left-hander? Moves to the outside line. Deeper on the brakes. Greg Sykes goes. Here comes Danny Corby as well. Side by side for the race lead, but Sykes manages to not quite get the lead. Anderson fends him out for now.
I think they're willing to give you a heart attack here, Nolan, but it's going to be really good to see how they negotiate the Mobile 1 Kera. Looks like the inertia have a better run going into the Mobile 1, and Corby try to go for the inside outside, locking the brakes, and will give up the position.
So Sykes down to P2. Danny Corby 3/4 of a second between himself and his inertia teammate up front with Christopher A.J. Anderson. Tell you what, that number 6 car has got his work cut out for him. He's got a very fast teammate just in behind. I have a feeling, though, so long as Anderson doesn't make that same mistake down to the hairpin on this final lap, he'll be able to come away with the victory here, and it'll be down between Corby and Sykes for P2.
Yeah, and you know what's the motto over here right now? If you got an instance, you got to use it as an off track. Use it. Off track is resource here, so I think that's what they have their mindset right now. But the gaps are just too far wide between all three drivers.
Final lap, half a second separating the inertia teammates. No mistake this time round for Krister AJ Anderson. Danny Corpy tucks in line. Greg Seitz at the moment is on his last legs here. He's got to try to maybe find a way up, but with half a second between himself and Danny Corpy, I don't think it's going to be close enough to have a reasonable dive bomb here. I think the position swapping has changed. What a lunge though for Danny Corpy to try to close the gap. It only cost him though about another 1/10 of a second in the process.
Yeah, he might have gained a little bit of time, but it's not enough for actually him to get closer to Anderson. Unless Anderson makes a mistake, so well, I think we are seeing Lyubov going against Martin Arnaudo's at the entry of turn number 8 and going to 9. They're both side by side. It's going to be a good one.
Two different battles on the right-hand side. Ozretskaya picks up a spot from Arnoldus, but through the final corner for the race lead. Krister AJ Anderson rounds the final bend, and he weathers the storm and wins over Danny Corpy and Greg Seitz in the battle for first place, just in behind. Not an easy victory for Anderson, but a well-deserved one at that. The battle is still on between Arnoldus and Ozretskaya. Arnoldus has got a run here in this final section, coming up to the final two right-hand corners on the circuit. I think it's going to be a draft from Arnoldus. Oh, but he gets loose out from the penultimate corner. That means he's going to sacrifice the time, and Ozretskaya wins out in the battle for P7.
Yeah, really good battle between Arnaudo's and Zaratowskaya, as Arnaudo's just decides to take the dramatic way out instead of Lyubov just driving around turn number 1, going to turn number 2 and trying to be safe going into it. But what a race. What I think we can put this right with Red Bull in terms of crazy races for this season.
Unbelievable stuff here from the Hockenheimring. So we'll take a look now at your official post-race results. Krister AJ Anderson brings it home after 19 laps. Danny Corpy tried to run him down, even got the fastest lap of the race on that final lap, but it was not enough, finishing half a second behind. Greg Seitz picks up the 3rd position to round out the podium with Daniel Kranefuss in 4th, with Mitchell Ian Green rounding out the top 5. Frank Nagain is going to be in 6th place with Lyubov Ozretskaya after not qualifying, picking her way up to 7th place with Martin Arnoldus down in 8th place. Anthony Kernan is in 9th with Callum Voisin rounding out the top 10 and the last car on the lead lap. Martin Steinhilber finishes 1 lap down in the 11th position with Ambadiba and Cristobal Valenzuela both not finishing the race, 6 and 9 laps down respectively. What an insane race though here in Germany to round out the first half of the season for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. I mean, that was insane, especially that battle for the lead that we had in the final run.
It would have massive implications, I think, in Finland if both drivers crashed. And I know Ocean Puka and some of the boys back at the inertia would have been very happy at words like quotes around the word specifically for for a possible incident. But what a battle for the top 3, and I think Seitz actually let the P2 go away because I think got spooked by Danny Corpy looking on the inside, going to the hairpin, and I think he locked the brakes, and Corpy just by pure pressure made the move. But Iowa should be a very fun race. I really don't know how these cars would handle around the track like that, so it's going to be a real interesting one to watch.
Iowa Speedway, of course, oval racing with open wheel vehicles. It is always a thrilling thing to watch. So that is unfortunately going to conclude our time here for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. We will, of course, be back next week. And don't forget as well, in just 15 minutes time, the Apex Formula 3 Championship will be coming to you live RaceSpotTV. And just 15 minutes later will, of course, be the iRacing Formula V series with Stefan and I in the booth for that one. Thank you everybody though for taking the time to come out and join us on a beautiful Friday afternoon. We will see you all next week at Iowa.